This summer, Book TV is asking, what are you reading?
Congressman Culberson, what are you reading this summer?
I always have 2 or 3 books going at the same time. One person who I always read on a regular basis is my hero Thomas Jefferson's writings. Frankly, a day doesn't go by that I don't read something that he's written. I'll continue to work my way through his letters in particular. Mr. Jefferson wrote so much that although I've probably spent the last almost 30 years reading through his works, I've only made it maybe about halfway through. So I'll continue to work on reading Thomas Jefferson's letters. I've always had a particular fascination with history, so I'll continue to read works by a number of different authors. One I'm working through right now is James McPherson's book on Lincoln's role as Commander-in-Chief during the Civil War, which I have found particularly relevant to the debate going on today with the outrage by liberals about George W. Bush's use of interrogation of these killers at Guantanamo, which has saved lives, in fact. Dropping a caterpillar in a box with a terrorist is not exactly my idea of torture. And frankly, if it's a choice between dipping the guy's head in water or saving thousands of Americans, I'd as soon dip his head in water a few times. And when you read what Lincoln did during the Civil War, Lincoln as Commander-in-Chief, as James McPherson points out, exercised incredible power in his authority as Commander-in-Chief, which is what, frankly, George Bush has done. President Bush, just as Abraham Lincoln did, took his role as Commander-in-Chief very seriously and used the very broad grant of authority given to the President by the Constitution to interrogate these killers and find out what they're up to and save lives, particularly in Los Angeles, for example. There would have been thousands of deaths in downtown Los Angeles but for the interrogation of those terrorists. Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, arrested over 13,000 Americans simply for speaking out in favor of the Confederacy's right to secede, and suspended habeas corpus nationwide, used his power as Commander-in-Chief to do all sorts of things that caused outrage during the war, and nobody questioned it. So I'll be reading, I always have a particular interest in constitutional history, in the war between the states, so I'm finishing up this book. I highly recommend James McPherson to anyone. I always keep several books going at the same time. A whole second area that I work on continuously are diaries of Texans during the war between the states. And in particular, I found this one. I can't recommend this one highly enough. It's hard to find, but it is a soldier's letter to Charming Nellie, and he's a wonderful writer. He does a great job of writing in Technicolor. Wonderful personal anecdotes of Texans in the war. You can see on the cover the Lone Star, which means a great deal to me personally. I am a passionate Jeffersonian Republican / Libertarian, and believe very passionately in individuals' right to get the government. I want the government out of my back, off my back, out of my pocket, and out of my life. And that's what the Lone Star stood for. I collect these hat stars worn by Texans in the Army of the Republic of Texas in the war between the states. So I've had a particular interest and fascination with Texans in Texas history, so I'll be reading a lot of Texas history as well. I'm doing a lot of time studying the coming generational storm. This is a particularly important subject for all of us as Americans to pay attention to, because the comptroller estimates we have about 5 years to act, 5 to 6 years to really get spending under control, or we're on a path that would lead to the day in about 12 years from now when the U.S. Treasury bills, the safest investment in the history of the world, will be graded as junk bonds. And that's unacceptable to me. It's outrageous. I voted against $2.3 trillion of spending under George Bush, voted against $1.6 trillion of spending under this new bunch. Already they're spending money that's faster than any Congress in the history of the nation. So all of us as Americans need to be paying close attention to the approaching financial hurricane that's coming. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all driving us into bankruptcy if we're not careful. I don't want America to become Argentina. So I will be spending a lot of time this summer reading, focusing on history, because as Winston Churchill once said, the farther into the past we can see, the farther into the future we'll be able to predict.
To see more summer reading lists and other program information, visit our website at booktv.org.